Well, good morning, Marion. I'm so excited to have an opportunity to pick your brain for myself, really, and my audience. I have a collection of listeners who I assume follow me because of my expertise in workplace relationships. And I understand that you are in the business of workplace communication training. And I really believe that relationships are all about communication. So I'm really happy to have you as a guest on my leadership tip video recording here today. And so everybody, this is Marion Finkelstein, and
You
she is
got it.
author of the Finkelstein Factor and also a workplace trainer. And one of the things that we have so much in common with is that we both approach training the same way. I noticed when I was looking at your website, we approach it with teaching people how to lead themselves first and then lead others. So I was super excited to see that similarity. Marion, can as we're going through this massive change here, it's September 2020 in COVID, I would imagine that some people are really embracing this change and others are having a difficult time with it. And so what can you tell us about change? Is it personality based or is it circumstance based?
Well, the short answer, Penny, well, first of all, let me say I'm so happy to be here because I definitely feel some synergies between us and pleased to speak to your audience. The short answer to your question is it's both. It really is, because different personalities will respond different ways to the same stimuli. And the reason why is because we are all blessedly different. That's the good news. And that's the challenge. So let me explain a bit in terms of how some people might respond to change differently. There are some people who love initiating change. If it's not happening in their life, you know what, Penny, they're going to inject it. They love the excitement, the adventure, the game, the challenge that change presents. And then there's other people who build their future based on the known, what they already have experienced and feels familiar to them. So when you throw that type of person into a world of swirling change, kind of like what we're in right now, that is exceptionally uncomfortable and difficult for those people. So how you accept change or not depends a lot on how much change, what type of change, what part of your life is it affecting or not, and are you initiating the change or are you receiving the change, and how do you receive it?
Right. And and I guess in this circumstance, um, I would hope nobody has initiated it. And so we're all kind of on the receiving end of it. But then under that layer, depending on whether we're employers, employees,
Mhm.
what programs our employers have rolled out, I think on in some way, shape, or form, we could be initiators of the change. And if you look at life from an individual perspective, we can all be initiating change based on the circumstances. So it's kind of circular, isn't it?
It most definitely is. And you raise a good point that the change may be happening over here, but how you catch it and what you do with it is 100% up to you. So even though the change, i.e., some catastrophe like COVID, is happening, you can initiate certain changes in your life that give you back that control that we all desperately want to feel that we are in control. And there are some pieces that are so swirling out there, we just don't have control of them. So my suggestion would be grab those pieces that you do have control of, your schedule, your workplace. I mean, look at us all using our homes as our offices right now. Grab control of your environment, for example. Make sure that you're in an environment that gives you calm and peace and that you can focus and provide support for yourself. That's another piece that you can do in the throes of change. Meet with like-minded people who understand your perspective and support your perspective. That could be colleagues, like what we do. as CAPS colleagues, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers colleagues, we bounce around ideas and share experiences with each other and learn and lean on each other. And you can control the pieces that can impact your life in a great way. And just grabbing control of those little pieces gives a real sense of calm, I believe, especially when you feel so wildly out of control with what's happening these days.
Right. It's like an anchoring. You know, you have something to grasp or something to stay grounded or centered in. And then
Indeed.
I know one of the things that you promote is because I read it in a book bio or you know a little bit about your book
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
also encouraging people to let go of
Yes.
the other things.
Yes, the let go piece is really tough. And when I do presentations or I do coaching on that topic of letting go, it consists of 6 different questions. And what it is I work through the questions with the people, and really what we're working toward is, have you earned the right to let go? And often people have this aha moment of, oh my gosh, you know what? I have done everything I could. I did give it my best effort. I did control what I could control. So maybe I have earned the right to let it go and just
Mm.
sigh and breathe easy. That letting go piece, honestly, the more I go on in life, the more I believe life's big lesson to each and every one of us is all about letting go. We don't have control of certain things. We
Right.
don't have control of our health, but we have control of maybe not our genetics, but we have control of what we do with those genetics. We have a control of our lifestyle, for example. We might not have control of our whole work environment and contextually what's happening in the work environment, but we control how we respond to it. We control the environment physically and support-wise that we create. So we do create our own environment, and allowing yourself to acknowledge that and to acknowledge that you've controlled the pieces that you can, those are all steps toward that big one of letting go and
Yeah.
moving forward without guilt or regret.
That is such a good point, and I think we could spend the entire interview talking about it. But I do have another question to ask you about, you know, um, let's say you are one of the leaders or senior managers, supervisors, HR managers, and you have to roll out a change, communicate a change to your organization. What are some of the tips for being successful at rolling out change?
Well, I'm going to share with you a major tip that I see some people in leadership positions, and frankly, anybody can be a leader regardless of which level you're at in your organization. We're all leaders. The biggest mistake I have seen both clients and employees and employers that I've had do is they wait until they want to have all the information before they release any of it. That
Yeah.
is so unsettling to the people hungry for information. So my suggestion would be, let people know, let your people, your team, your tribe, let them know you don't have all the answers. You have some of the answers, and you will share the rest of the answers when you get them. For now, this is what you know, this is what you're looking into, and you will keep them informed as you move along. That does 2 things. It fills that void of uncertainty, because if you don't fill it, it will get filled with gossip and rumors and uncertainty and angst. You don't want that. So fill it with information of what you know at the given time. The second thing it will do is, when you're forthright and you proactively communicate, it builds trust. And that is huge for leaders. Build trust. You know, when I think about change, I mean, we're swirling in change right now, no question. I remember back in the day, many moons ago, when I used to work at marketing of airports. And it was when Transport Canada Federal Department owned all the airports across Canada.
Mm.
before airport authorities came into place. And I remember I was working in headquarters in Ottawa, and we had an assistant deputy minister who was fantastic. You can imagine when the news came down that these airports were going to be lopped off into the private sector. You can imagine the kerfuffle amongst employees, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my job? Are we still going to be civil servants? Or who's going to be our employer? This airport authority, whatever. So what this ADM did, his name was Victor, he would gather in headquarters all the headquarters staff. He would gather with his leadership, and they would filter the information down. And he would also gather in person with all the plebiscites, the employees, those teams. And he traveled across the country to in person deliver the message to all the levels of the organization. And I think that's critical in terms of communication, workplace communication during change, is that you're communicating with all the people who are going to be affected. Let them know that you're looking into the areas of concern. You know what the concerns are. You're looking into them. You have their interests. You want to hear from them, and you will keep them advised as you move forward.
That's an excellent story, because it really does paint the picture of what you're trying to say, is that communication is really important from the leadership, from the top, because without it, the grapevine starts to get really busy and people will make things up. And you know that
Yes.
old game of telephone where you tell a friend who tells a friend
Yes.
and the message comes around back to you and it's nothing like what you said. That's what happens with the
Yeah.
grapevine. So I really love that example. What about if you're if you're one of the people who are hearing about the change, um, can you give us some suggestions on how to react or respond, or what to do to really embrace something that's thrust upon you?
Right. Well, again, I return to the concept of personality, because I teach personality dimensions and true colors and such. So I often think of, when I'm communicating or coaching a client on communicating in a circumstance, I always suggest reach out to all the different personality types in your communication. And if the change is happening to you, you're going to respond differently depending on what type of personality you have, what comes naturally, what's innate to you. And for people who feel very uncertain during the change, what I would suggest is speak to trusted sources to get the information, and go to the horse's mouth instead of the other end. So speak directly to the horse. Speak to the source so that you know you're getting the information straight and that you're getting it accurately. And let them know, whoever the powers that be, what your concerns might be. Now, if you're sitting there and you're saying, oh, gee, Marion, I don't have anybody who's going to listen to me. Well, what you can do is then look at the person who is the decision maker and look who they listen to, and speak to those influencers, because your message will get through eventually to that person. So that's another technique that you can do. And the other suggestion I would make is, we talked about this earlier, is control the pieces that you can. Choose to be a victor, not a victim. Change can happen to you or with you. So be part of the change. Be the change that you want to see. Who said that? Was that
Gandhi.
Maya Lou, Angela? um, I think that was Gandhi. Be the
It was
change you
Gandhi.
want to see.
That's right.
So be the change you want to see. Like, be there. Start modeling the type of change that you hope to see in your future. And I'm a big believer that we all create our own realities. The good news about that is, if you don't like your reality and the changes that are happening and how you're responding and how everybody else is responding, you can change the way that you're responding. The bad news about creating your own reality is now you have no one else to blame.
But at
It's
least
all
you're
about
in
how
the
you,
driver's seat, right?
exactly. It's all about how you drive and where you're going.
So the example of, if okay, so back to the example of wanting the information from the horse's mouth. Can you help me understand? Let's say you're a line worker in a production facility, and there's some change coming down the pipe, and you want to go right to the horse's mouth. Where would you go?
You would go to your immediate boss first. You would talk to your peers, get the information. You would ask for a briefing or a meeting or some information of some sort. You'd ask what their communication plan was. That's pretty important. As leaders, hello leaders, listen to me. Have a communication plan. It's a great tool to use during times of change and flux. So if you're the recipient of that change and you're not getting the answers that you want, try different communication vehicles. Here's a tip that I've used that really can work quite well. If your boss is really busy during the day and just doesn't have any time to connect with you, find out, are they an early morning boss or a late stay boss? And then come then. Either catch them first thing in the morning or late in the day when you know they're going to be around without all the other distractions. Here's another concept. Bosses are humans. So walk in with a cup of coffee. Let them know the change, that you acknowledge the change is affecting them too. You know that it can't be easy for them.
Yeah.
Dealing with not just their changes, but getting it from the top and the bottom. So what can you do to help them make the change easier as well?
I think that's the most important point. Not that all your points weren't important, but that's just a really important point for a frontline staff to understand, is that, don't go at it guns a-blazing. Go at it with listening ears, go at it with the intention to really seek to understand the things that you don't understand. And that is just an important point, no matter where you are in that hierarchy of an organization, is that, people really feel valued when you go and you sit and you just intend to listen, to seek to understand. And coffee definitely helps. Well, Marion, thank you so much. I know that, I want to acknowledge that sometimes things go wrong, because we know they will. And you've written a book on that subject. So maybe just give us a little bit of information about, how we can reach out to you, how we can get more information about the speaking engagements that you do, or the training or the assistance that you help organizations with, and how to get a copy of your book.
Absolutely, Penny. Well, the book is called The Finkelstein Factor, What to Do When Things Go Wrong Because You Know They Will, sigh. And it's called The Finkelstein Factor based on a lot of my husband's experiences. He has this gift of being able to flip a negative situation into something comical, funny, that you can laugh at. He's really my anchor. And so this includes a lot of course, workplace stories, personal stories, some of which I've shared with you. It also includes, you were talking about the letting go. There's a whole chapter at the end about letting go. And I walk through the various phases and steps of how to deal with a loss or a change or something that's throwing your world off kilter, and how to get through it at the other end, so that finally when you look down that tunnel and you see a light, it's finally not a train. It's okay to walk forward through that tunnel and get out at the other end. So that's what the Finkelstein Factor is all about. And I'm really excited because I actually am in the process of creating an online workshop of the Finkelstein Factor, which will span over a couple weeks, that I will be offering online coaching with groups of people who sign up, and they will get an e-copy of the Finkelstein Factor. And anybody who wants a hard copy is available on Amazon.ca or Amazon.com. Or if you want an e-copy, you can go to my website, marionspeaks.com. I always say my company is called marionspeaks.com, and my husband's company is called andstevenlistens.com. Yeah, that's not true. On so many levels, that's not true.
But he's working on it, right?
He's working on it.
Yes. Well, you're a trainer, so I'm sure that he's becoming very well trained. And I really want to thank you for being a guest. We will definitely put some of your information in the show notes and links to your site and where to get your book. And I really honor your time. So thanks for spending some of it with us.
My delight, my pleasure. And goodbye to you and all your listeners and audience.
Okay.